I have watched several episodes of the TV show crime drama that's currently on CBS, Blue Bloods, and Danny Regan is a New York City detective. He's one of the main characters, and he has the belief that to achieve justice, that the end for the cops for to achieve justice, including for the detective and cops, that the ends justify the means, and he's seen beneficial fruit with this philosophy. So I'm not surprised that he has that philosophy, and why I don't believe he would continue to hold on to that belief is if he was ever the one that was getting investigated, could be for extortion, robbery, murder, anything illegal, and he's in the interrogation room or somewhere else where the detective or the cop is going to be asking him questions, and instead of doing it the moral way, the just way, decide to use his philosophy of the ends justify the means. You could start with a guy, could be the size of Dolph Lundgren, could be the same size of Dolph Lundgren, including weight and height, who is a freaking, he's a tall guy that could, no doubt he would freaking, he would ease, no doubt he hits harder than the boxer the great boxer that boxed Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis. When in doubt, he could just, no doubt he'd be hitting harder, he'd be punching harder than Lennox Lewis, and this tall officer, detective, instead of just asking him the questions, decides to start punching him at full force, and no doubt, more than likely, his right on his nose, it'd freaking be a nose breaker. It wouldn't be that hard because of how tall he is, how big he is. Starts punching him to obtain the information instead of just asking him. Decides to use violent force because they're using his philosophy of the ends justify the means. So using violent force, punching him, repeatedly punches him until he gets the information, and not just that, but also freaking clothesline from hell. And I wouldn't doubt, because of the tall officer or detective having the size advantage, being the same as Dolph, being the same size and weight as Dolph Lundgren, that he would freaking knock him the hell down, and he's gonna feel like it's gonna be harrowing with that clothesline from hell. And I'd be extremely surprised after the first punch going freaking full speed, that I really doubt that after full speed that he would still be withholding that information and continuing to believe that the ends justify the means. But even if he was, I'd be extremely, I really doubt that he's going to continue to hold on to that information when he's punching the guy, punching the officer, and no damage, and the officer just easily punches him back and freaking knocks him the hell down. Now, it doesn't just knock him the hell down, freaking nose breaker, breaks his nose, freaking gets blood on his freaking clothes, multiple bones. Even if he decides to withhold his information after more than 3 punches, he isn't just going to have a freaking broken nose. He's going to have a broken nose. More than likely, he's going to be bleeding, and he's going to be paying he's going to be paying a high amount of damn money, either for stitches, surgery, possibly stitches, and and surgery, possibly, more than likely both, because of because the guy having the freaking size advantage, and also maybe he could be also mainly because of having the size advantage of a guy that no doubt could freaking easily knock Lennox Lewis the hell out. So that's one. I really doubt that he would still be holding on to that, and then another one that why I doubt he would still be holding on to it. If an officer, he's in the interrogation room, and an officer has a typical washcloth, and he puts a pool ball in it, and Danny decides not to answer that information for whatever he's being investigated for, and the officer decides to use the ends justify the means, and he could be guilty. Just hypothetically, he's guilty, but he still decides not to answer. just not to incriminate himself, but the officer or detective decides to use that washcloth that has a pool ball in it and freaking hits him full speed. No doubt that's going to be extremely harrowing, and I wouldn't doubt at all that he's not going to withhold that. He's not going to withhold that information. He's going to give all information as far as whatever crime he is guilty of. But even if he isn't guilty, whatever crime he's guilty of, since if maybe he's not guilty, but he's a person of interest, so he knows some information in regards to the illegal activities, but he's deciding for some reason not to tell that information. And so, wouldn't doubt at all he's not going to hold on to that belief that the ends justify the means after getting freaking hit full speed with a washcloth, with a pool ball. That no doubt would knock his teeth the hell out, and he would freaking be bleeding. And then another way that I don't doubt at all that he's not going to hold on to that belief, the ends justify the means. He's a person of interest, or he's the one that's being investigated because he did something illegal. It's Coca-Cola, my favorite soda. Now, what is that third way? Oh yeah, waterboarding. I've read about it. It gets debated whether it's torture or not torture, but no doubt it could be. All right, I think it's consistently. I think most persons, being reasonable, would agree that waterboarding is a kind of torture because you're putting a person against their will under water for the purposes of obtaining information from them. And persons obtaining information, and they could do it repeatedly, and you could do that repeatedly, waterboarding him for more than 20 seconds and for more than 15 seconds, and no doubt it's going to be pleasant, no doubt it's going to be extremely challenging and it's going to be terrifying because the person doesn't know how long they're going to be underwater because it's against their will, and possibly they could be restrained by handcuffs, ropes, or something of that nature. And when in doubt at all, after that, he would after being waterboarded once for more than 15 seconds, not only is he not going to hold on to that whole the ends justify the means after seeing how destructive it can be, but also whatever information be, whether it's because he's a suspect or the person of interest, he's just going to tell that information so the waterboarding doesn't continue, and mainly so the waterboarding stops because it's harrowing, it's extremely challenging, and it's terrifying. And then another way, I recall in the the great video game for PlayStation 2, The Punisher, to obtain information, he ended up putting it was a criminal in the water. I think it's like an ocean, and then a shark was coming around, and just before it, as a Punisher, he removes the criminal just before the shark gets several yards away, and this was mainly done to obtain that information through coercion or the fear of violence, mainly that would be from a shark, is remain in the water, get bit and eaten more than bit by a shark that more than likely could easily eat that person. So if that was happening to, if Danny was the one that was getting held out on an area of a bull shark or tiger shark or any kind of shark that can easily eat a human and also cut his wrist blood to attract a shark or blue sharks. Wouldn't doubt at all he's going, even before he gets put in the water, that he's going to accept that the ends just accept the destructive, accept that his philosophy, accept that the ends don't justify the means for achieving justice, and he's going to say the information as far as what he knows whether he's a person of interest or a suspect, mainly because he doesn't want to freaking gamble with a shark either biting him, possibly bleeding to death, or getting bit, or even if he doesn't bleed to death, still get bitten is extremely painful from a shark, and or possibly gamble in getting eaten by a shark because he decided not to give the officer or detective, FBI agent, whoever's investigating him, the information. So those are, no doubt there's multiple other ways of situations Danny could be in where clearly wouldn't, vast other situations Danny could be in where he's the one being investigated and he'd find out the hard way that the ends don't justify the means as far as achieving justice. But for the purposes of this video, I can only think of three, and I wouldn't be able to use every single kind of situation, which is why I limited it to three. And for something different for this video, I decided to wear this, as you can see, this Tennessee Volunteers cap instead of the black cowboy hat that I got from Nashville. As variety is the spice of life, something different for this video.